Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is now 5:30 p.m. and the live stream and recording has commenced. You may begin your meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. I see that we have indeed quorum, so I call this meeting, public meeting under the Planning Act into session. Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. As our practice is, at this time, we read the land acknowledgement statement, and tonight I have the privilege. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. And now we turn to the Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have some opening remarks. I will ask Ms. Wilford to share our screen. Public meeting under the Planning Act, May 9th, 2022, 5:30 p.m. All town of Pelham in-person public meetings have been canceled. Instead, the town is holding all meetings electronically via Zoom. Please note that no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. The Planning Department will be providing a presentation regarding the subject application. Participants are reminded, please ensure your background is free from offensive or vulgar material. If inappropriate material is visible, you will be removed from the meeting. Vulgar or offensive language will not be tolerated. If inappropriate language is used, you will be removed from the meeting. Participants will remain in the waiting room until they are called to speak. Once your comments have been heard by council, your microphone will be muted and staff will turn off your camera. The Zoom chat is not monitored nor recommended to contact the Clerk's Department during this meeting. Please contact us via email at clerks@pelham.ca. The email address is being monitored during the meeting. Decorum. The public meeting under the Planning Act is a formal public hearing requiring decorum. This means that all comments are to be made through the chair. If you have pre-registered to speak, you'll be given an opportunity to address council at the public portion of the meeting. If you are live streaming and wish to submit a comment live, please email clerks@pelham.ca. Please note, comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they will not be considered. Disrespectful comments will also not be tolerated. Please note that if decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and persons asked to leave. Public portion of the meeting. To allow for an efficient meeting, each member of the public will be given the opportunity to speak to council during the public portion of the meeting. Please note, after all members of the public have been given the opportunity to speak, the applicant or agent will have the opportunity to address the public comments and concerns at one time. Please note, all comments stated and received electronically form part of the public record and will be considered by planning staff when preparing their recommendation report for council's consideration. If you wish to receive a copy of the Notice of Decision, please contact the planner responsible for this application in writing as soon as possible. Tonight's application is Shannon LaRock, Senior Planner, slarock@pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur that the agenda for the May 19th, 2022 public meeting under the Planning Act, special meeting of Committee of the Whole, be adopted as circulated. To you for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Clerk. Is there any discussion on the item before us? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you for the vote. I will begin with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur?
Yes.
Councillor Olson?
Yes.
Councillor Stewart?
Yes.
Councillor Wink?
Yes.
Mayor Junkin?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are now at item number 3, being disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, is there any counselor that has a pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I have so noted. Mr. Mayor, we are now on item number 4, and I will now read the notice requirements into the record. Town of Pelham application for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, 120 Meridian Way, file numbers OPAM-0121 and AM-04-21. Official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to facilitate the development of a mixed-use building consisting of a ground floor medical offices and 200 apartment dwellings. The Planning Act requires under Section 34 and 22 that Council must hold at least one public meeting for informing the public in respect of the proposed amendments. This planning meeting has been called to satisfy this requirement. Notice of the meeting was provided by prepaid first class to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on April 14, 2022. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendments. In addition to providing information, we will also receive any comments which any member of the public may wish to offer. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the clerk in writing as soon as possible. Contact information is available on the town's website and will also be displayed on the last slide of the staff presentation to follow shortly. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Town of Pelham to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but they do not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Pelham before the bylaw is passed, they are not entitled to appeal the decision. In closing, we stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendments, and therefore any comments received will be considered by Council. Through Mr. Mayor, we do have our senior planner, Ms. Shannon LaRocque, in the meeting with us.
Okay. Ms. LaRocque, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This public meeting is for property located at 120 Meridian Way. The applications are for official plan and zoning bylaw amendment. This property is located at the southwest corner of Rice Road and Meridian Way, and council is likely familiar with this property. It was sold by the town to the current owner with the intention that the property be developed for medical offices. And the current proposal is for a mixed-use building with medical offices on the ground floor and apartments above. The total height is 8 stories, and there are 200 apartment units proposed. The requested official plan amendment would increase the maximum density permitted on this property to 257 units per net hectare from the current maximum of 160 units per hectare. And the requested zoning bylaw amendment would permit 55 parking spaces to be used for the ground floor medical offices and visitor parking, and permit the parking stall dimensions to be 2.7 meters wide and 5.8 meters long. This is the proposed site plan. It shows the building located on the eastern portion of the property. The proposal is to have a 3-story portion here and then it increasing up to 8 stories along Rice Road. There's also a parquet proposed in just south of the building here. There are 85 surface parking spaces proposed, 35 bike parking spaces, and 170 parking spaces underground. These are the conceptual building elevations. This is the eastern elevation, which is the 8-story portion, and this would be the view from Rice Road. And this is the northern elevation. This shows the 3-story portion here, and then the step up to 8 stories along Rice Road. This is the view from Meridian Way. And the planning policy framework for this application and property. This property is considered a settlement area in the provincial policy statement. Settlement areas permit a mix of housing types and densities that efficiently use land and resources, including infrastructure. And the property is considered to be a designated greenfield area in the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Greenfield areas are, of course, to be developed at a minimum density of 50 jobs and persons per hectare. The Niagara Region's official plan considers this property to be within the urban area and its designated greenfield area, similar to the growth plan. This designation accommodates a range of different land uses. It has the similar minimum density target as the growth plan, and it really encourages and provides opportunities for integrated and mixed land uses. The town's official plan considers this property to be within the commercial and employment center of East Fonthill. It's designated East Fonthill mixed use designation. That designation permits commercial, professional, and government offices, as well as apartment buildings. Residential development in this designation is to range from a minimum of 35 units per hectare up to 160 units per hectare. And this designation requires a minimum building height of 2 stories or 6 meters and a maximum of 10 stories or 35 meters. The requested official plan amendment would change policy B17832B to increase the maximum density to 257 units per hectare. That's an increase from 160. And that would allow 200 apartment dwellings where the current permitted maximum would be 124 units. The town zoning bylaw zones this property East Fonthill Mixed Use 3. That zone does permit apartment dwellings as well as medical offices. And the request is to allow 55 parking spaces between the medical offices and visitors, as well as to allow a reduction in the dimensions of the parking stalls from the width of 2.7 meters by 5.8 from the 5.9 length. And this is sort of an overview of the zoning regulations in the East Fonthill Mixed Use 3 zone. The minimum and maximum building heights will be complied with for this proposal, as well as the building setbacks and the parking lot setback. The zoning bylaw amendment really relates to the parking requirements, which are detailed here. The East Fonthill Mixed Use 3 zone is not very specific in terms of parking that is required for visitors, parking for people with disabilities, and parking for parents with young children. Instead, it just says that it has to be an appropriate number of spaces. And so in this case, the developer has requested that they be permitted to have 11 spaces be considered appropriate under the bylaw, with the ability to share the 44 spaces of the medical offices for a total of 55 spaces available. The residential apartments are being provided with the minimum requirement of the 1 space per unit for a total of 200 spaces. And the medical offices are being provided with the minimum requirement of 4 spaces per 100 square meters of gross leasable floor area. That's a total of 44 required spaces. So those 2 requirements are being met. The change is really with respect to what's considered appropriate for the visitors, persons with disabilities, and parking for parents with young children. The other zoning change, of course, is that one related to the size of the stalls. These applications were circulated for comments to town departments and commenting agencies, as well as members of the public within 120 meters of this property. There were also signs posted to make the public aware, and it was put on the town's website and social media. In terms of comments received from agencies, the building division advised that a permit would be required, as well as compliance with the Ontario Building Code. Canada Post advised that a centralized mail facility would be required in the common area indoors. Enbridge provided no objections. Public Works gave some technical comments that would inform a future site plan approval application, and the region offered no objections. And maybe now is a good time to add that should council approve this application, the official plan and the zoning bylaw amendment, then approval of a site plan application would be required in the future prior to obtaining a building permit. And no comments have been received from any member of the public at this time. A number of technical reports were provided with these applications. We received a planning justification report, a functional servicing and stormwater management report, a pedestrian wind assessment, an environmental noise impact study, a shadow impact analysis, and an urban design brief. And if anyone wishes to view copies of these reports, I'm happy to send them. And you're welcome to contact me through the contact information on the last slide. And the next couple of slides just show a brief overview of what the shadow impact analysis determined. So this is June 21st. This would be summer solstice, so longest day of the year. You can see the expected shadowing at 8 a.m., 4 p.m., and at 7 p.m. And winter solstice, December 21st, we have 9 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m. And there are no decisions or recommendations regarding these applications tonight. We are here to receive questions and comments. And if anyone wishes to receive notices in future, please contact me through this contact information. I'm happy to address questions also. You can contact me at extension 319 at the town or by email slarock@pelham.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luak, for your presentation. I now turn to the Deputy Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have the agent with us in the meeting, Ms. Nancy Friday. We also have the applicant, architect, and consultant. And I believe that Ms. Friday does have a presentation.
Right. Ms. Friday, you have the floor.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Nancy Friday. I'm with GSP Group. And do I share from my screen or does the clerk share from their screen?
You are welcome to share your presentation if you're comfortable.
Okay. Make sure I get the right screen here. I don't think I have that. Do you see my screen?
No, we do not, but I can ask the clerk to share your presentation. No problem.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So you can see that first screen one with the address 120 Meridian Way, and I'm not sharing the next slide, just the major slide, I hope.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So as was mentioned, we do have the architect on the Zoom meeting tonight. His name is Wayne Harrison from KNYMH. And we do have some representatives of the owner here as well, if there's any questions of the developer / owner. My presentation, as I listened to Shannon's, is very similar. So I'll just breeze through this a bit, and then I think we'll leave that time for questions. So I think I used exactly the same slide as Ms. LaRock, showing the location of the subject lands on the west side of Rice Road and the south side of Meridian Way and next door to the Meridian Community Center. I included just a site context slide here, again showing the red star with the subject lands, and Rice Road being a regional road. And on the other side, on the east side, we have lands within an agricultural area, and they're also within the Greenbelt Plan as protected countryside. And then we can see the developed area of Pelham and a few of the main spots around town through the Google Maps. The East Vaughan Hill Secondary Plan, I think we saw that slide as well. So we're in that red area, the mixed use area, and they're part of that commercial employment center in the East Vaughan Hill Secondary Plan, the purple and the red area. And I just highlighted a few of the highlights from the secondary plan or the official plan, being that the maximum building height on the subject lands is the 10 stories or 35 meters, whichever is less. And the developing area in here, as it progresses, the Meridian Center, of course, started things off, and then there's additional development of residential and different employment, retail, residential uses within the mixed use and urban highway commercial areas. The subject lands at 120 Meridian Way are a gateway to the community, as they are they're located at the furthest portion of the secondary plan area. And the official plan amendment itself is not for the use or not for the height, but of course, as was pointed out, the density. The density is 160 units per hectare maximum. And based on the smaller size of the units within the 8-story building, that density has been, this proposal has a density of 257 units per hectare. The official plan, the secondary plan, also has some policies regarding maybe reducing or maybe sharing parking could be considered by the town. And that's what's happening with this redevelopment proposal in terms of the medical center is on the ground floor, and visitor parking and the medical center parking would be shared with the total of 55 spaces, as was pointed out by Ms. LaRocque. Again, I have a zoning map. I'll quickly run through this. All the regulations are basically met, and as was explained, there's a bit of a range of minimum and maximum parking. So we clarify here that we are going to provide the 1 unit, not 1.25, but 1 unit, one parking space per unit, and then the rest is on the at-grade parking is for medical parking and visitors. And it does include barrier-free spaces. And right now we have 2, but that can be increased if so desired by the town. The proposed development, 8-story building, medical uses on the ground floor, the 3-story portion facing Meridian Way. Through the process, it was stated that it'd be nice to have some sidewalk connections from Meridian Way sidewalk to access the building around the 3-story portion of the building. And then we added a parkette at this location at the far south portion of the building for a parkette. Some of the mitigation required for the parkette involves noise and wind based on the environmental noise impact study and the pedestrian wind assessment. It was found that a noise wall is required around the parkette, and also some mitigation of awnings and different plantings for pedestrian wind environment in that location. Then there's the underground parking ramp is here at the bottom at the west end of the site, and of course all the surface parking is shown there with garbage routes and, and loading areas. And we have provided the town with truck turning movements to demonstrate that it all functions well. Yeah, so this is again, I think we've probably stated this a number of times already, but 200 suites, 255 parking spaces in total, 170 of those are underground, and we have some 1,100 square meters of medical space on the ground floor. The parkette is 266 square meters, which is just 2,863 square feet. And there's indoor long-term bicycle storage. We have 140 spaces internal to the building. And then we have also 30 surface bicycle parking spaces as well. We did a preliminary landscape plan, which would be finalized at the site plan stage. And this includes the parkette, which shows some plantings around the outside for wind mitigation and for attractiveness, and then access to the multi-use trail. And there is unfortunately a noise wall required unfortunately, because it does screen the area, but it is required given the road noise levels on Rice Road. This is the parkette in a little more detail. There's planting beds, there's seating, there's a bit of a trellis in this location, and an awning in this location, and a sound wall. It's 2.43 meters in height that would have to surround this portion of the parkette. We have a concept rendering. The details of this is not necessarily the final, but this is something that was developed with the architects and with the owners as to what the building would look like at the corner of Meridian and Rice Road, and showing the step backs, the 3-story portion, different colors and articulations for the corner. So just to conclude, this was submitted originally in July of 2021. And we have worked with the town to improve a number of on-site elements, such as the pedestrian movement and parking circulation. There's a few revisions required to the noise impact study based on different levels of forecasted noise from 20 and 54, the 2 major roads in the area. And a little bit of pedestrian wind assessment was updated to address the parkette and to enhance landscaping. So I think one of the main issues that probably will come to your mind when you see this is that there's 200 suites and the density is higher than what's permitted in the official plan. And that's because of the type of units that the developer wants to provide, smaller units, more affordable units. So therefore, rather than the limit of 124, there are 200 suites in the building. And given that the parking can be provided for those suites, we feel that it's an appropriate redevelopment at this location. And through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to council tonight, and happy to answer any questions you may have or questions from the public.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Friday, for that presentation. I will turn to the Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. That does bring us to the public portion of the meeting. We do not have any pre-registered members of the public for this application. Having said that, I will just check the clerks@pelham.ca email address to see if anyone has emailed. Mr. Mayor can confirm that it is 5:57 p.m. and we have received no emails. Therefore, you can close the public portion of the meeting and move into committee input.
Okay, thank you. Now we turn to the council, and is there any councillor that wishes to make comments on the presentation, either by the planner or by the applicant? And I see Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. It looks like a lovely development. I do have a number of questions, though. You say the size of the units are going to be smaller. So can you give me some examples of the size? I know they won't all be the same size, but some examples of the sizes and whether they'll be rental or condominium units for sale.
Ms. Friday?
I wonder if I might, through you, Mr. Mayor, have the architect answer that question. It's more familiar with the unit sizes. I can too. If Mr. Harrison unmutes himself, he can answer that question, please.
Mr. Harrison, are you there?
I am here, yes. Okay, so looking through this, I would say this is primarily one-bedroom units. They are 585 is sort of about a third of them are about 585. Then we get into some 605s, 650s, and then for the corner units, they are the bigger ones. So there's on each floor there is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 two-bedroom units on a floor, out of basically 30 on a floor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And they will be condominium ownership, as far as I know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Oh, I see Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the presenter. I guess I would like to take this opportunity, as I always do, to mention the fact that I would be personally interested in seeing some kind of built-in for electric vehicles, because that's going to be coming, and probably something in the neighborhood of geodesic heating. Perhaps one of our favorites on this council is permeable surfaces. Not expecting a commitment, but perhaps you could make a comment on that, the architect or the builder, if they could.
Mr. Harrison?
Okay, I'm not the builder, so I can't speak, but sorry, I can only give you my opinion right now. With the price of gasoline, I think the builder would be amiss not providing significant number of electric vehicles. I know by myself, I'm looking at electric vehicles with the price of gas right now. So I think that's going to happen quite naturally. Whether you do geothermal or other types of that types of things, I'm going to have to leave that to Claude get there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Councillor Olson?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. That's as much as I could expect, I think.
Okay, thank you. I believe Councillor Hildebrand.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenters. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your presentation this evening. One of the things that's obtaining a strong movement in our area, obviously, is sustainable construction with zero emission, which is basically what Councillor Olson was referring to when he talked about some of those initiatives that he talked about. But I'd like to go just a step further with that, because cities like Vancouver are having a lot of wood frame construction, and Ontario allows that now to a 6-story limit. Is some of those sustainable items going to be considered for these buildings? Because I think that's what we're looking for, because down the road, we're looking for zero emission designs. So if the architect or designer could comment on that, I'd sure appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any comments to that extent, Mr. Harrison?
Sure, yes. Actually, the building code is getting almost in front of you right now. The requirements of what are required for energy efficiency, I would say over the last 12 years has increased every single year, to the point now where I don't know if you've seen any of the new houses going up. You know, we used to put R32 insulation in our attics, then the code says R40, then it was R50, then it's R60. You know, every year it bumps up that little bit more. So the building code has already got you covered for taking the efficiencies to quite incredible levels right now. I would have to get the mechanical engineer to go through the types of, you break down to the heat pumps and everything that has to go in there. We actually have to energy model the buildings now, and they now have to be energy modeled to a much higher standard than it was even 3 years ago. But I do want to talk about wood buildings. Don't do them. I have done probably more wood buildings than anybody in Ontario. They're not working out well. They are the rules here are different than they are in BC, and here we require things like the exits and the stairs and stuff like that have to be non-combustible, like concrete masonry. And with the shrinkage of the wood adjacent to those types of things, we're getting horrendous problems on buildings we have done, where the buildings are reacting in ways that have not been fully come to grips with yet. So I know our company will not do any more wood buildings over 4 stories. I'll leave it at that. But I don't push for the wood. That's a bad one. But for all the other energy efficient things, yes, this building will be very high on the energy efficiency thing.
Great.
And we will be energy modeling it.
Thank
All
you.
the committees I'm involved with, this is the first report I've heard with problems in Ontario with wood buildings. Which is amazing. Vancouver people are highly supportive of wood buildings, and they're doing them, I heard, up to 9 stories. I see the code only allows 6, so I'm not sure how that's working out.
Yes,
those are the reports I'm receiving.
I wouldn't mind having a discussion with you afterwards to go through it, just so you know. I don't know how much I want to speak out in front of everybody here, but if you want to get hold of me, I will definitely go through with the particular things as to what is occurring on there.
I certainly appreciate that, and I will be taking advantage of that offer. Thank you.
But please do, yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Harrison, and thank you, Councillor Hildebrand. See, Councillor Wink. Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry about that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your presentation. I've got just one question and a couple of observations that I'd like to pass on. The question is with respect to accessibility in the apartments. So will some of the 1-bedroom units be accessible to people with challenges?
Mr. Harrison, or should we go to Ms. Friday?
I'll take this one too.
Okay.
The building code already requires that certain things within the building be done. The common areas of the building have to be barrier-free. Your front entrance has to be barrier-free with push buttons on the front door and the vestibule doors. You have to now have elevators to the floors. The hallways have to have certain minimum distances and certain minimum turnarounds every 30 meters or be extra wide. Then once you get to the physical suites themselves, the building code currently is slightly less aggressive. Well, basically what it is that the building code requires that it used to be 10%, now it's 15% of suites have certain things that are barrier-free. They're not barrier-free suites, but they have to have certain barrier-free things. Those things are a 1,500 millimeter turning circle in the bathrooms. You need from the suite door right through to the back of the suite, but not including balcony, you have to have a minimum of 3'8" wide hallway, we'll say, through the there. You can't go less than that. You can't have 3 foot wide where your counter meets next to a wall or something like that. You have to have 3'8". You have to have a 12-inch. If you're pushing a door open at the latch side, you have to provide 12 inches to a bedroom, to 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. Is 12 inches on the latch side so you can push. And if you're pulling the door towards you, you have to leave 2 feet on the latch side pulling towards you. That's it. There is no real requirements for like true accessible suites like we're doing for nonprofit housing. There's no what do you call it? Things like spaces beside the toilet, or we don't have to have lifting devices. We don't have to have kitchens where you can bring wheelchairs under the counters or things like that. It's just those very specific things I was talking about. But it is 15%, and that's even defined as 15% of all one bedroom den units, and 15% of two bedroom den units, or if you have 3-bedroom, 15% of 3-bedroom units. You can't just jam them all into the 1-bedrooms or all into the 2-bedrooms.
So if you have someone interested in purchasing a 1-bedroom unit as part of the condominium, would you be open to providing fully accessible apartments?
Well, it would be providing those items which I mentioned. You would have I don't believe the builder would be pre-building suites with no lower cabinets, because you just have a countertop so you can drive underneath them or things like that, because those are very specific things for somebody that is fully accessible.
But we have people in our community that require those types of things. So it's just something that you may want.
Okay, sorry, Claudia, I'm afraid you may have to step in here, but basically, I believe the answer would be if there was a purchaser that was willing to do it, would you, Claudia, be willing to accommodate such purchaser?
Hi, good afternoon, through you, Mr. Mayor, and everybody. Thank you very much for having us this afternoon. A couple of things, Councillor Wink. I think that your question is a very valid one, and just to reiterate what Wayne was saying, and I think that maybe it got diluted in all the minutia of the technicalities, but 15% of each suite type has to be by code accessible. So there is a slight difference between accessibility and handicap compliant. Having said that, when we launch our sales process and we open our presentation center, should we have a customer that would require that level of customization to go from accessibility to fully handicap compliant, we would definitely try to accommodate. And it's really going to depend on the timing of when such individual would approach us, because obviously through the construction timeline, there would be a cutoff date, right? That's simply changes cannot be made past then, but we would definitely be open to that level of customization.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the answer I was looking for. Just a couple of comments. It was indicated that there was 2 barrier-free parking spaces. I would suggest that you revisit that and beef that up a little bit, because there is a possibility of some people requiring barrier-free, even if they're not fully handicapped or whatever, but and you've got the medical offices there that 2 spaces is not enough for barrier free. So I'd like you to reconsider that before you go too much further. The other comment I'm going to make is parking is an issue around the Meridian Community Center, and it should be posted in all common areas that parking in the MCC is prohibited and will be subject to tickets and or towing for occupants of this building, occupants or visitors. So I think everyone should be aware that parking is at premium all around that area. And if we're looking at limiting the parking for your building, to the 200 spots, that there's got to be something in the common areas to say that they're not allowed to park in the MCC.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any comments on that from either Ms. Friday, Mr. Harrison, or Claudia?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have discussed increasing the number of barrier-free parking spaces, and Wayne has done a bit of a rejig of some of the parking area, and we can definitely increase that number from 2 to perhaps up to 6 without losing the total number of parking spaces.
Excellent.
We would definitely be supportive of that, because as you say, Councillor Wink, we are very cognizant of the clientele that will come to the clinic.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Wink, is that any other comments?
Yeah, so that addressed the barrier-free parking spots, but didn't address my comment with respect to posting in common areas that the occupants or visitors of the of 120 Meridian Way should not be parking in the MCC parking lot.
Thank you, Councillor. And Ms. Friday, perhaps you're now, please note that signage would be desirable in the common area about parking restrictions for at the MCC?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that is certainly doable, and if need be, there could be some agreement or registration in the condominium documents regarding no parking at the Meridian Community Center.
Great, thank you. Councillor Wink?
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kaur?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation. You mentioned that there's 170 underground parking spots. Is that one level or two levels or three?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, that is one level of underground
One
parking.
level. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenters, I presume you're going to have a sub pump. And where would that water be diverted to?
Okay, I'm gonna have to field that too. I don't know if Wayne, if you can answer that, or Claudia. I know that I am not fully adversant on that matter.
Mr. Harrison, you want to take a shot at that, or should I go to?
Sure, to the chair. We actually have mechanical and civil engineers on board, and I would expect, yes, there's some pumps. Every building we do has some pumps. I would expect that it would be, and with, I think there's already been quite a lot of engineering drawings showing how this works going on already between the engineering department and our engineers, that there would be some pumps that would take that water into the storm system. But basically, there's going to be after some more soils tests done to determine the level, if there's any groundwater or stuff like that. And then the amount would then be determined by the engineers as to how much water there would actually be.
Thank you.
So that it goes into the storm system. Yeah.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter. So is that going to be on these Highway 20 and Rice Road, or on the Port Robson and Rice Road reserves or reservoirs? Because the one on Highway 20 and Rice Road, I feel it's already being taxed. And with some pumps, it could add future problems to that. To the creek, we talk about the creek and I just would like to know where the water's being directed.
Mr. Harrison, perhaps you may have to have your engineers get in touch with council. I have a feeling that it's, go ahead, Ms. Luai.
Pardon me.
Ms. Friday.
Yes, pardon me, Mr. Mayor, through you to the councillor. I did make note, we do have our functional servicing and stormwater management report, and there's a statement in there that the drainage area is to the facility north of Summerside Boulevard between the realigned channel and Wellspring Way. I'm not sure if it's still referred to as Pond B1. So it is not the stormwater management pond up at 20 and Rice. It's further into the community.
I see Ms. Weens, I see you're on screen. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you. As Ms. Friday indicated, this site is not within the storm catchment area for the pond at the corner of Rice Road and Highway 20. It's in the catchment area for the pond that is on Wellspring Way beside Summerside's, or the Wellspring facility on Wellspring Way.
Excellent. So it will eventually drain, I believe that whole system drains into the Welland Canal. Am I correct?
Yes, it goes out eventually and crosses Rice Road into the Singer Drain, which then goes to the Welland Canal.
Thank you. Councillor Court?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions, comments? Back to Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. How many doctor's offices or medical offices do you see in the building?
Ms. Friday?
I think you said that. I just can't recall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is that 1,100 square meters of space. I don't know that it's actually been demised as of yet, but certainly there can be larger or smaller. I unfortunately can't answer the number of units that that space could accommodate, but certainly a number of them could be accommodated.
Thank you. Much needed in our community.
Yep. Thank you, Councilor Olson. Any other comments? Councilor Stewart.
All right. Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Back to that famous bugbear, parking. I absolutely do not believe that one space per unit is at all acceptable. I know some of them will be small and, really will only accommodate one person. But if you're talking, any of the larger ones, like even 650 square feet, and then the larger corner ones, I assume you would need a minimum of 2 spaces for those units. So as it stands, I believe it's woefully inadequate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for those comments, Councillor. I take it that the builder will take those comments to heart. Any other comments from councillors? Not seeing any. I turn to Madame Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to the presentation of resolution. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson that committee receive report 2022-115 for information as it pertains to file numbers OP-AM-01-2021 and AM-04-2021, and that committee direct planning staff to prepare the recommendation report on this topic for council's consideration. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Any other comments or questions on this item? Not seeing any. Madam Deputy Clerk?
Thank you. For the vote, I will begin with Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart that committee receive the applicant's presentation for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any other final discussions on the presentations? Not seeing any, Madam Deputy Clerk?
Thank you. For the vote, I will begin with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to item 6, being adjournment. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand that the special committee of the whole public meeting under the Planning Act be adjourned. To you for discussion.
Okay, any discussion on adjournment? Not seeing any.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the vote, I will begin with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that carries. Mr. Mayor, it is 6:23 p.m. and you may gavel at your meeting.
Okay. Good night, councillors.
Good.